The last transmission from Colony Outpost Reach-9 had gone out 11 hours ago, and Governor Ellen Marsh had stopped believing anyone was coming to answer it. She stood on the observation deck of the colony's central spire, watching the sky burn. 3 Kethari cruisers hung in low orbit like black teeth against the stars, their weapons batteries already glowing with the heat of a bombardment that hadn't stopped in 2 days. Below her, in the shelters carved into the bedrock, 11,000 colonists were doing the only thing left to do, waiting to find out whether they would live or die. Governor. Deputy Administrator Tom Reyes climbed the last steps 2 at a time, his uniform scorched at the shoulder from a fire he'd helped put out an hour ago. Orbital defense grid is down to 8%. Command wants your authorization to evacuate the spire. Authorization granted. Ellen didn't turn around. Tom, be honest with me. Are we going to hold? He hesitated, and that hesitation was answer enough. The Kethari aren't here to conquer us, he said quietly. They're here to erase us. Make an example. Nobody's coming, Governor. Earth is 4 months out at best speed, and the nearest fleet garrison. The spire shuddered. Alarms screamed through the corridor behind them. On the horizon, a plasma lance the width of a city block had just vaporized what used to be the northern grain silos. The nearest fleet garrison is the Illinois, Tom finished, and she's a single ship. 1 ship isn't a rescue, Governor. It's a funeral escort. Ellen closed her eyes. She thought of her daughter, asleep 2 levels down in the shelter, and of the promise she'd made when she signed the charter to bring colonists out here. Humanity does not abandon its own. It had sounded so certain back on Earth, in a boardroom with clean air and no bombs falling. Then we die making them remember our names, she said. Sound full evacuation. Get as many people into the deep shelters as... Governor! A young sensor tech burst onto the deck, tablet shaking in her hands. Long-range contact! Something just dropped out of transit at the system's edge. It's moving fast. Ellen turned. Far above the burning atmosphere, past the Kethari formation, a single point of light had appeared where nothing had been a heartbeat before. It wasn't decelerating gently, the way starships were supposed to. It was coming in like a thrown spear, trailing a wake of ionized fire that turned the black sky the color of a wound. IFF confirms, the tech said, voice cracking. It's Illinois. 200,000 kilometers away, on the bridge of the UES Illinois, Captain Rachel Donovan gripped the arms of her command chair as the ship screamed through the debris field left by 3 days of one-sided slaughter. Report, she said, and her voice did not shake, though everything else in her chest wanted to. 11,000 civilians on the surface, still alive, Captain, said her tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Isaac Whitfield. Orbital defenses are critical. 3 Kethari cruisers, full weapons loaded, and they've seen us. Of course they've seen us. We came in loud on purpose. Rachel leaned forward. Talk to me, Isaac. What are we bringing to a fight against 3 cruisers? 1 ship, ma'am. Standard armament. No reinforcements within 4 months transit. He met her eyes. By every rule of engagement in the fleet manual, we should not be here. Good thing I stopped reading the manual around Chapter 9. Rachel allowed herself the smallest, grimmest smile. Helm, take us straight down their throats. Weapons target the lead cruiser's engine block. I want them to feel us before they can maneuver. Comms, get me a channel to the colony. A moment later, static resolved into Ellen Marsh's exhausted voice. Illinois, this is Reach-9, Governor Marsh. We have people dying down here. Do you have a plan, or did you just come to watch? Governor, this is Captain Donovan. Rachel's voice was calm, almost gentle, cutting through the chaos on both ends of the line. I need you to get every soul you can into deep shelter in the next 6 minutes. After that, look up. You're going to see something. 6 minutes? Captain, you're 1 ship against 3 warships that have been shelling us for 2 days. I know exactly what I'm 1 ship against, Governor. Rachel's eyes were on the tactical display, where the Illinois was already carving a burning arc toward the lead Kethari cruiser. 6 minutes. Trust me. The Kethari commander, watching the lone human vessel accelerate toward his formation instead of away from it, made the mistake that would end him. He assumed suicide. He assumed grief madness, or some primitive human ritual of dying with teeth bared. He ordered his cruisers to spread formation and finish the bombardment, treating the Illinois as an afterthought. He did not know that Rachel Donovan had spent 6 years flying interceptors before she ever sat in a captain's chair, and that everything about the way the Illinois moved now was not the desperate flailing of a doomed crew. It was a knife fighter closing distance on purpose. Belly turrets, full spread on Cruiser 2, Rachel ordered as the Illinois rolled inverted beneath the Kethari formation, threading a gap between the ships that any sane captain would never have attempted. Isaac, punch Cruiser 1's engines the second we're past. Range in 3, 2, firing. The Illinois screamed underneath the lead cruiser close enough that its hull plating scraped ionized atmosphere off the ship's shields, and unleashed everything she had into the engine block from point-blank range. The cruiser didn't explode, it simply stopped, its drive core going dark, tumbling out of formation like a puppet with its strings cut. One down, not destroyed, disabled, Isaac called out. 2 and 3 converging on our position. Let them converge. Rachel's hands were steady on the arms of her chair. Helm, hard burn, put us between 2 and 3, make them choose between hitting us and hitting each other. It was a brutal, elegant piece of flying, the kind that existed nowhere in a training manual because no sane instructor would teach a maneuver that depended on the enemy's own crossfire doing your work for you. The Illinois threaded the needle between the 2 remaining cruisers, and when Cruiser 3 opened fire, half its barrage tore into Cruiser 2's unshielded flank. Confusion. Fury. The Kethari formation, so disciplined moments before, broke into chaos. That was when Rachel gave the order that colony survivors would tell their grandchildren about for the rest of their lives. All batteries. Everything we have. Cruiser 3 now. The Illinois unloaded a full broadside into the one enemy ship still fully capable of fighting, and combined with the wounded Cruiser 2 had already carved into it, the strike broke its shields entirely. Secondary explosions rippled down its hull like fireworks. Within 90 seconds, it was over. Cruiser 1 drifted, dark and disabled. Cruiser 2, bleeding atmosphere from its own crossfire, broke orbit and fled toward open space. Cruiser 3's wreckage tumbled silently against the stars. On the observation deck, Ellen Marsh stood with her daughter's hand in hers, both of them watching the sky where, minutes before, death had been descending in 3 parts. Now there was only the Illinois, scorched and venting atmosphere from a dozen minor hull breaches, holding position over the colony like a promise kept. Governor Marsh. Rachel's voice came through the calm, steady, a little tired, entirely human. Reach-9, this is Illinois. The sky's clear. Damage control teams are prepping to come down and help however we can. Ellen found she couldn't speak for a moment. Around her, on every level of the spire, people were stepping out of shelters into a daylight they hadn't expected to see again, looking up at a sky that no longer held Kethari cruisers, only one battered, brilliant ship, holding its post. Captain, Ellen finally managed. You were supposed to be a funeral escort. Governor, Rachel said, and there was something warm underneath the exhaustion in her voice. I told your deputy administrator I stopped reading past chapter 9. Turns out the manual doesn't have a chapter for what we actually do. Below, 11,000 people who had spent 2 days believing no one was coming stood in the open air, alive, and began, one by one, to cheer. The Illinois held orbit until the relief convoy arrived 3 weeks later, battered, scarred, and unmoving, exactly where a promise had said she would be.